The Jill and Stacy Show, featuring Senator Steve Rawlings.
We've got Senator Steve Rawlings on the line. How was your day today?
It's a very good day. It was the first day of session and just got sworn in. I've had people calling me senator for months, and now I am a senator and I can say so. Before I was inclined to say, well, a senator elect, or I'm still a state representative, but now it's official.
So do you want to talk about your committees?
Sure. I'm on a number of committees. In the House, people were only generally on 3 committees, but I have 7. And to name some of them, I'm on education again, and health services for the first time, banking and insurance, and there's a capital planning that goes on more in the interim. And then I'm co-chair on the budget review subcommittee for education, and that's more during the interim, but I'll be co-chair on that. But those are some examples of the committees, and it'll be such a busy time. I'm hoping that they don't conflict and when they're scheduled. So that's always a problem with some people, where the committees are scheduled at the same time and they can't be at both committees.
Good point.
Would that budget committee for education, does that involve any audits by any chance?
Groups come forward and present what they've got going on, and you can ask different groups like the KDE to come in and present on a certain topic. So you can, I understand it's pretty flexible that you can get people in there and get reports on things. I asked Kim Banta, co-chair in the House, and I asked her, I said, can we, for example, ask about how many KDE employees are still working remotely? And she said, well, sure, yeah, we can do that. And I said, can we ask them to present their salaries, it is public information, but I would like to have them there in front of the committee and find out what all they make, because there's a number of them, a high number of them in triple digits, and that make 200 and 300,000. So I think they need to be confronted with that. So I'm still finding out what all we can do, but there's some latitude there to get some interviewing and get some reports issued and put some feet to the fire, hopefully.
Well, I had read that there was just over 700 KDE employees under Governor Bevin, while under Bashir, it was, and this I think was last year or 2023, there were 1,054 KDE employees. So he's increased how many KDE employees there even are. And then when you have that kind of salary going into it, that's a lot.
You know, you two and I have talked about the proficiency rates have consistently gone down during that hiring of all those additional administrators. So the proficiency rates were climbing before 2015. And then there was a turning point then, and it's been declining ever since. So during that time, they're hiring more and more people. And then there's a source of contention with me as the school teachers will come down to Frankfurt and ask for more money. But there's been an increasing amount of money budgeted for schools. And as you two know, it's a high percentage of the overall budget, state budget. Yet we fund the money and then they blow up the administrative states. So they just increase the establishment aspect of things. And some teachers don't get the raises they might deserve.
Well, just in Boone County, they are very top heavy. I did an audit on Kenton County, Jefferson, Boone, and there was another one that I did an audit on teachers versus students and district employees, and Boone County blew it away in terms of being top heavy.
Okay.
We would love an audit done on Boone County if possible. I mean, we pushed for Cameron to do it, and we've been pushing Coleman to do it, and neither one of them have done anything about it. I think we've actually tried to get a hold of Allison Ball to do it. She hasn't done anything.
Yeah, maybe I'll have the opportunity with this subcommittee very possibly to do that. So we'll work on that. We'll see what we can do. And Kim Banta is pretty much aligned with us on her concern about this and money going into administrators rather than being directed to the schools. And you guys know how much the surplus is with Boone County now. What is that? I thought I heard it was over 100 million. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity to deal with that with the subcommittee on education, and we can drill down on a lot of that.
How long has Banta been chair?
I don't know, at least 4 years. She's been on there for a while, and she's got a good head for that sort of thing. She's got experience because she worked in the school system, and she cut some staff down. And when she left, they blew it right back up again. So if she was able to cut 7 positions when she left, then they rehired about 11 people. And don't hold me to those numbers, but in that principle,
Right.
She tried to work on that. And as soon as she was gone, they went right back in the other direction.
So what else fun happened today?
The new guys got to introduce their families. So I got to introduce Melody and my dad and mom. And my dad really appreciates that kind of thing. So all the new guys introduced their families that were there. Some of them had big families. We have 5 new Republicans, all men, and then 1 new Senate Democrat who's female. So there's 6 new people all totaled. And we also went over the rules. There was a little battle on the rules today. Quite a bit of time was spent back and forth with 2 of the Democrats in leadership having objections to what they were doing with the rules and looking for more transparency and time to run bills. But the Republican leadership was concerned about how last session went when there wasn't enough time at the end. So they were trying to limit. It was a time management thing with them. And so the one most contentious rule, Jay Williams spoke up, and he did a great job on the rule back in the 90s was under majority Democrat leadership. It was a rule back in the 90s, and they just went back to that rule. So it's no different than what it was before. But the Democrats spent a good amount of time objecting. So that took quite a bit of time, a lot of back and forth today, which is unusual on the first day. But it's not unusual for them to question rules, and the rules come up every 2 years. The celebratory part of today was the swearing in of the new members, new senators, and that would be half of the Senate because of the rotating schedule of elections, because of the 4-year terms. So that means half of the 38 were sworn in today. Amazingly, 37 out of 38 of the members were here on this snowy day. And the only one that wasn't here was having flu-like symptoms. And that's why he didn't come. But it's pretty amazing that there was such a room full there to witness the swearing in today.
So it happened in the House as well.
Yeah, so I didn't get over to the House. I didn't get a report on the House. Justice of the Supreme Court, the head justice, she swore them in the House, and then she came over to the Senate and swore us in the Senate. So it's pretty brief procedure. So some people, when they go down, might be a little disappointed because that part of things goes so fast. You just swear in, and that's it. And you're done. Then they get to business after that. So our Senate session was over 2 hours today, I think. And I saw people from the House come over into the Senate after about an hour. So I think the House went much quicker.
So when do you guys start submitting bills? When does that happen?
So today was official first day of session. So bills were being filed today. So they already had more than 50 bills filed today. And some bills were brought to me, and I decided to wait till tomorrow. Some people wait to file Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I want to get my bills filed the first week is all, but I didn't feel a need to get it done today. So that's what most people have in mind. And then, we have a 3-week break. So this is just the initial starting up of the session. And then it gives leadership time to formulate what all they've got in mind for the session, which really starts the main part of it on Tuesday, February 4th.
Is there a deadline to submit bills?
Yeah, the deadline to submit bills is the 18th in the Senate and the 19th in the House.
And this is a short session?
Yes, it's going to go really fast. It'll be a blink before you know it. So it's a 30-day session, but they spread it out so that it runs through March 30. And generally, you're going down to Frankfurt Tuesday through Friday. So there's nothing generally scheduled on Mondays. I think they want the majority of bills the first 4 days, and then they can formulate their strategy on the priorities of leadership and what all they want to put through. But I don't know why they set it up for 3 weeks off. Might be because of the winter weather.
Do you want to talk about your bills?
So there was agreement in the Senate to try to keep everyone to 5 bills, to file 5 bills each senator. It's not a rule, but they're asking for that because last session, which was a 60-day session, there were so many bills at the end that they couldn't give them enough time and couldn't get all the bills a hearing that they wanted to. So a lot of bills fell short. So this time they're asking us to file 5 bills. So I got 5 bills I actually had 7 or 8 bills that I wanted to file. So I had to prioritize them. I listed in our Senate caucus meeting my Restoring Religious Liberty bill as my top priority because we have a Religious Freedom Restoration Act. They're called RFRAs, and they're in 28 states, and 10 other states have protections too. But the 28 states, we're one of 28 states, but ours is the very shortest. It's only 3 sentences long, so it has no teeth to it. So I supplemented it with definitions and consequences and more specifics and a cause of action. So if the government impedes on a citizen's right of conscience, then now you can make a claim against the offending government official. So I outlaid that in the bill, and I presented that at the caucus meeting, and it seems like I've got a lot of support for it. And I've been working on this bill over and over, 10 revisions probably, and I've filed it each year. But this time it looks like it has more impetus, and hopefully it can move forward. And then I've got a transfer on death bill. They're called Todd, transfer on death, so that somebody in end of life or anytime during their life can just sign over a deed to their named beneficiary or to their child, and so they don't have to put it in a will and they don't have to go through probate. So there's so many citizens in the state that all they have is a house, maybe a little house, and now they can file this without getting an attorney, or an attorney can help them with this too, but they don't have to go through all the process or not knowing what to do. It makes it very simple. So that's in 30 states, and I keep thinking this bill will pass. Last time it went before a committee, and I had a 20-0 vote, and it still didn't get to the floor for a vote. Another bill I have is Kentucky Department of Education statutes that some of them are vague and not strong. And so I tried to strengthen it to include things like civics and explain that the government is the 3 branches of government, that our government is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And I updated a bunch of regulations, and the Kentucky Department of Education, the people I talked to actually are good with it and are okay with the bill and are supporting the bill, which is great. What it does is it cuts a lot of regulations too that are duplicating others, and it's like cutting regulations. So I think it's a great bill for that. Cutting some unnecessary regulations that don't need to be there. Geoengineering. So I've got a bill to ban climate manipulation. and ban stratospheric aerosol injection, to ban cloud seeding. And you all are familiar with this one. Many states are now presenting bills. I've talked to people in all over the country. I've talked to people in Idaho and Oklahoma and Washington State and Alaska. I even had an email with someone in New Zealand that people are so concerned about this. And of course, people from all over our state are always sending me correspondence on wanting a bill like this. Bottom line, it's an anti-pollution bill. It's a clean atmosphere bill. I don't know why there would be any opposition to it. So Tennessee was the first state to actually pass a bill, which is a great foundation for getting this moving. Now that we've had one state pass it, and the first time I filed the bill, there were maybe only 2 or 3 states that had filed a bill, but now there's a bunch of states. Ohio has, and Oklahoma's about to, and Pennsylvania just filed a bill. So I'm really excited about that aspect of it. There's a lot of momentum and people really want it. And then the last bill that I'm offering is the one I filed last time, is Kentucky Sovereignty Bill, restoring Kentucky sovereignty. And it's basically a 10th Amendment bill, or states' rights, or federalism. And that's to prevent overreaching government. Like some of the Biden executive actions were unconstitutional. So this would ban any unconstitutional actions so that Kentucky wouldn't have to abide by edicts from like the World Health Organization or the UN or the World Economic Forum or whatever worldwide agency. Judge Brueggemann helped go through it with me. We went through it word by word. He's our constitutional expert in Northern Kentucky. I was really pleased that he assisted and he really supports the bill. And so we've got to try to get it through. The other states have it. Oklahoma, I think maybe Texas, maybe Louisiana has it. So I'm hoping we can get that one through too. So those are my 5 bills. One bill I was working on is to ban foreign funding of elections and ballot measures. There's all kinds of money coming in from overseas, like George Soros type people. There's a wealthy Swiss businessman who wants to see our country more progressive. So he's been flooding our country with millions of dollars on ballot measures. Like 2 years ago, the pro-life ballot measure, there was a considerable amount of money that he funneled into the country against that, to vote no on that ballot measure. I had another senator accept that will run that bill. And there's a couple others like that I've worked on that I'm hoping other senators pick up on it, or someone in the House. So I had 2 or 3 others.
I was going to say, how can we follow these bills and how can we help get them passed? Like, how do the constituents do that?
You could start following the bills today as they're filed. There's no pre-filing anymore where the public could see the bills that were going to be filed. But as of today, you'll start to see the bills, and you can tell people not to write people like us that file the bills that support them. They need to focus on the other legislators. They need to focus on the legislators that are chairmen of committees and of the 5 people in leadership, and get it out there as much as possible to those others. I get a lot of emails to me, and it's like, I already support, I'm already for what you want. That really doesn't accomplish anything if they could just focus their efforts. But it's difficult to know how to best go about that. If people want to call a legislator, one key is to ask for their legislative assistant. And that way you'll actually get to their office, get to talk to a real person. And so that's one tip, to at least get that far, and to ask that the legislator calls you back. So it's a challenge to get word out. And the leadership, the people in control, they always have the same, there's special interests after them all the time. There's all the money that's in lobbying, millions of dollars directed in that. And then they're focusing on the infrastructure and economic development and the budget. Like last session, 2024 was a budget year. That was the primary focus. So they're always focused on those things. The roads are a big deal. So it's hard to get any of the other bills through. It's hard for them to get attention and to get a hearing in a committee.
So we need your bills to pass committee. So we need to focus on the committees those bills are going in front of and the legislators in those committees. Would that
Yes.
be the first step? Okay.
Yes. Practice grace and respect and all that. People complaining, it's easy to get written off because people just delete or go to the next email. So, you want to really come across, emphasize how important an issue is to you.
So say if you have an issue and you want to put a law in place as like a citizen, you want to see something go into fruition in terms of law, would they go to you directly and their House representative?
Yes. So bills are presented to us and bill ideas a lot, very often. And yes, you can do that. There's a lot of special interest groups around, policy groups and conservative groups, family-oriented groups that you can work through. People need to get more involved with those groups instead of complaining. You need to get with groups that are really getting stuff done. And we see them visit us in Frankfurt, and of course, those kind of groups have a better chance. Also, in that regard, schedule a trip to see your legislators in Frankfurt. Try to get a visit with them set up. That has an impact.
I reached out to Americans for Prosperity, Liam, and
Yeah.
he submitted a records request in regards to all of the propaganda that was being pushed out to the teachers and the staff at the schools. And I wanted to know, hey, where did you get on it? And he said, I submitted a ton of requests. What are you looking for? Most of it had to do with vendor payments for districts. So I don't know if you know anything about that. Because I told him, I said, I want to know if the school district and or KDE use taxpayer dollars to communicate disinformation about Amendment 2 to their staff and others. Yeah, who's looking into this right now?
TJ Roberts is, I believe, filing a bill in the House on that. The committee chairmen the education committee chairmen are well aware of it. And I was told that the superintendents burned a lot of bridges during that time.
Right. They had an ad on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. So that's up in the air. And, people should also focus efforts on the Attorney General, made it very clear for them not to do it beforehand. And they went ahead and advocated publicly for it anyway.
And if people would have voted for issue 2 or Amendment 2, this would have been able to start the dialogue and to get something on the books, at least.
Right. And a lot of miscommunication, that. A lot of mysteries thrown out there.
Mm-hmm.
And people just didn't hear the truths.
Well, one of the issues we brought to Candy already, just in passing, was truancy. Because the schools keep saying all these kids are truant. And I said, Candy, what is the standard for truancy? Because literally every school, not even just districts, every school makes up their own truancy rules. So how is KDE coming to you guys saying all these kids are truant? Because one school is going to say you can have 6 parent notes. One says you can have 10. One says you can have 9. And I'm sorry, I don't think the government should be able to tell me how many parent notes I send. That's my kid, not yours.
It's a real problem. That's one of the things at the top of the list. And we've heard all kinds of testimony, discussion at the education hearings about it. And
there's no standard though, Steve. So I don't want the schools telling you guys that all these kids are truant, because then you have to ask the schools, what's your standard of truant? Because y'all make it up. It's arbitrary rules over the parents is what it is. And then you're going to hold me captive to doctor's notes. It cost me $165 to take my child to the pediatrician to get him a note. If my son has the flu and is going to miss more than 2 days and I'm required to have a doctor's note, that's extortion. I don't need a doctor's note for some diarrhea and vomiting. I can write that note. I'm the parent. Like, you go to the doctor to get something done. You don't go to the doctor just because you need a note for school. Give me a break. Well, the teachers get 14 days off where they don't have to have a doctor's note. So surely the kids can miss as many days as the teachers.
Yeah, whenever I talk to the authorities, so to speak, it's like everything's so overwhelming. They just don't get these things done. these things don't
Then
get
get
done.
a different job. That's what I would tell them. You're so overwhelmed, go get a different job.
Well, hopefully I can deal with some of those issues on that subcommittee. That won't really start. That will not start up until after the session, though. It's for the interim.
We're just asking that the legislators legislate a standard.
Right.
So if KDE comes to you and says these kids are truant, there's a standard to be like, so all these kids missed X amount of days without parent note or whatever the standard is. They can't just make that up.
Should never forget the Louisville factor, the makeup of the different population of kids there and how bad the schools are there. And it seems like in Frankfurt, there's always a focus on that or an allowance for that.
Well, there still needs to be a standard in place that everybody's held to a particular standard. Like I said, you're saying kids are truant at Connor Middle, but they only get 6 notes. And then kids in Kenton County are truant, but they got 14 parent notes.
Yeah.
Like having it all over the board, you're not really getting a real assessment of what's happening.
I guess what I'm saying, though, is Jefferson County schools are so powerful, they don't want those standards. They don't want to be held to standards that the rest of the state does, and they've got so much influence. I don't know. I just wonder about that.
Well, let's talk about the real reason why they're doing this truancy nonsense. Every time a kid is not in school, they lose money.
Yes. Right. I was thinking about that for Amendment 2, that the real battle that people didn't talk about, I don't think, they didn't want to lose their power and control. They didn't want to lose their student population because of the money. And I think if you drill down to it, that's the bottom line, right? They didn't want to lose any money. They don't want to lose students because there's dollars per student that they would lose. And they're not about to concede to that.
Well, and I also think they use it as something to hide behind when you guys come at them about test scores. Well, these kids are truant. They don't come to school, so they can't learn. I feel like they use it to hide behind. So they lessen how many days the kids can miss so that they can say more kids are truant. So they can say that's a reason that the test scores are falling behind.
Circular reasoning.
Yes.
Is that an SBDM decision or is that a principal decision?
SBDM, hence principal decision.
Right.
Make up rules.
I wonder if these principals get kickbacks.
Oh, incentivized?
Yeah.
They might be incentivized. Well, you heard at that legislative committee meeting that the schools had that they were meeting with all the principals and then having the principals push it down to the teachers. So
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Well, let you
Melody.
know.
Thanks for being so supportive of the hubs.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very, very proud of him. And even though he has to listen to me rant about all kinds of things that you all are talking about at home. So we do keep these things, or I should say these things are topics within our house all the time. Always. Appreciate what you guys do too. And getting the word out and trying to educate people. Oh my gosh. And it takes, and people have to hear it and hear it and hear it before it finally starts to sink in.
Yep.
Yep, that is true.
Like the rule of 3.
Yep. Isn't that the truth? That's it is that 3, just in so many different areas that, we could talk about. And it does, 3 seems to be so often the magic number.
Oh, my own mother came to me one day and was like, Stacy, Michelle Malkin's talking about them data mining the kids in school through those Chromebooks. And I'm like, Mom, I've been telling you that for 3 years. And she's like, I know, but Michelle Malkin said it. And I'm like, oh, well, then
I see who writes here. Yep. So true. And it's a thing with healthy eating. It's true with breaking kids from, from the bottle. It's just so true on so many fronts.
I hope our podcast can at least be one of those that people hear.
Absolutely.
One of the seeds.
I applaud what you guys do so much. I wish you would go viral. That's what I wish. All right. Sounds good, guys.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
The Jill and Stacy Show, featuring Senator Steve Rawlings.